Este episodio es presentado por Honda. Descubra la nueva Honda Passport Trail Sport todoterreno. La Passport más todoterreno que Honda haya imaginado jamás. Esta Passport cuenta con mayor altura al suelo, barras de techo en todas sus versiones y neumáticas especialmente diseñados para cualquier terreno. Además, disfruta todos tus viajes con el control de clima de 3 zonas, techo panorámico y opciones como asientos delanteros con calefacción y ventilación. Conoce más en honda.com/Passport.
At T-Mobile, our critical mission is providing unparalleled 5G coverage for when connectivity is mission critical. Introducing T-Priority, America's best 5G network experience for first responders, even in times of congestion. More capacity, faster speeds, better coverage. T-Priority from T-Mobile, built for tomorrow's emergencies, ready today. Discover more at t-priority.com.
For qualifying organizations on eligible rate plans, coverage not available in some areas and may be impacted by emergencies.
I know every operating
At my
system like
last
the
job,
back of
in
my
my current
hand.
role,
When it comes to
5 years of experience and have worked with several people from your company. I've been recognized for my passion. My team is everything.
LinkedIn delivers candidates who rise above the rest. With an up-to-date view into shared connections, skills, and interests you won't find anywhere else. See why 86% of small businesses who post a job on LinkedIn get a qualified candidate within a day. Post a job for free at linkedin.com/achieve. LinkedIn, your next great hire is here.
Love, exciting and new.
Hello, Hannah Waddingham here. Have you seen the fabulous new Sun Princess? World-class entertainment, exceptional dining, and the greatest pizza ever.
It's a love.
Don't miss our Come Aboard sale with up to 40% off and free room upgrades. Visit princess.com or call your travel advisor to book. Princess Cruises. Terms and restrictions apply. Offer ends 2/28/25. Ships of Bermudan and British Registry.
You are now listening to the Dynasty Rewind.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Dynasty Rewind. I'm your host, Michael Bauer, the best in the business. Once again, back in business. Coming off a cold, so my voice will sound different tonight. I apologize. We'll just make Nate carry the episode as he does every week. Joined as always by my faithful co-host, Nate, the Professor Christian. Nate, hello and welcome back.
Hello, Mike. Thank you. It's been a little bit of a hiatus since the last time that we spoke.
Yes, it has been. It's been weird. Normally, we talk a bunch, but, I've been under the weather, as I said, so, haven't been really talking to anybody.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that you're feeling better because I don't need your sickness when you come down this weekend to watch the Combine and do some scouting.
Gonna do Combine, gonna do some scouting, and if you are a patron of ours, a rewinder, if you will reap the benefit from that. We're going to be pre-recording basically, my first mute of the night. Our Patreon episodes for the month, some deeper dive scouting prospects, I guess you could say. Those are going to run through the draft, and depending on what the draft looks like, maybe even after the draft. And then maybe if we get time, Nate, we'll record next week episode together as well. So we keep going with our scouting. That's where we're at right now. And this week we're talking about the position that may be the most, I guess, volatile in this class. A lot of teams need it, and that's the quarterback position. Look, Nate, before we get into it, we're going to talk about our top 5 quarterbacks in this class. Free agency begins March 12th, so we're about 2 or 3 weeks away. Math is hard. And I feel as though the NFL free agency cycle is going to tell you how the NFL really feels about this quarterback class, who's going to get a big contract, who's going to be on the move. What are your thoughts on that, Nate?
I'm imagining that there's going to be a lot of quarterback movement this offseason, probably in the next month. Between free agency, we have like Sam Darnold, obviously going to be a free agent. It's going to be interesting to see where he goes and how much he signs for. We're hearing all these trade rumors with Matthew Stafford. I don't know if he'll actually end up moving or not, but the latest thing that I heard was that there's a 3-team deal, including the Seahawks and the Raiders, where Geno Smith would go to the Raiders, Matthew Stafford would go to the Seahawks, the Rams get a pick, and then they would trade for Aaron Rodgers. It's just, there's chaos, there's intrigue, there's questions, and it all surrounds the quarterback position. which we know is the most important position in the NFL. So, we do have some question marks about this class, and we're going to go over it. But there's, we were talking before the show. I was actually more excited about this quarterback class going over the scouting. I had more fun watching these guys than I kind of expected.
Yeah.
I think we've been down on this quarterback class as a whole. I still don't love it, that's for sure, but I do have some intrigue. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I think it's important to say too that just because a quarterback's not drafted in the first round, it's not a death sentence. I mean, notable recent non-first round draft pick quarterbacks, Jalen Hurts, Derek Carr, maybe not as recent. Drew Brees was not a first round pick. He had a pretty good fantasy career for you, right?
Yeah.
And there's always going to be Andy Dalton was another guy, second round draft pick, was very fantasy startable for a very long time. But there's teams that need quarterbacks. The Giants, the Jets, who won as many games with Aaron Rodgers as they did with Zach Wilson. The Browns. I did see a potential trade where the Steelers trade for Trevor Lawrence, which would be interesting.
Yeah, I don't think that has any legs. I think Trevor Lawrence himself said he's not leaving Jacksonville. So
yeah, the Colts need a quarterback, in my opinion. The Titans, the Raiders, possibly the Seahawks after what you just said. Yeah, I don't know what the Panthers are going to do there. Hey, you know what? For the first time in a while, the NFC North is actually set at quarterback. If the Vikings do come in and start JJ McCarthy. So I think it's going to be interesting to see who does what in the draft and in NFL free agency. So I'm excited. But like I said, not being a first-round quarterback, not a death sentence. And I think this class is going to have some good second-round NFL draft quarterbacks.
I think so. I think we got some good day 2 quarterbacks in the draft class.
And by the way, when I said that about not being drafted in the first round is not a death sentence, before you throw Will Levis at me, he got a shot, and he showed that he can't do it.
He might still get another shot. We'll see.
Yeah, it's interesting to see what goes down there. But let's kick it off. Nate, who is your number 5 quarterback?
Yeah, my number 5 quarterback in this class at the moment, because we know all these rankings are fluid. My quarterback number 5 right now is Quinn Ewers, quarterback from Texas, formerly at Ohio State. He's had quite the little story as he's gone through college. He went to Ohio State a year early out of high school. He reclassified because NIL became a thing. So he reclassified, went to Ohio State instead of going to his senior year of high school. So he has been in college for 4 years, but essentially he's like a 3-year college player because he went to college a year early. Didn't really play at all at Ohio State, ended up transferring to Texas. Performed pretty well. I know there's a lot of expectations and a lot of disappointment kind of around Quinn Ewers, but still he took him to the playoffs this year. He's had a lot of good wide receivers to work with, and he's been a serviceable, above average college quarterback. I don't know if he's going to be able to be an NFL start at the next level, though. He does have some decent athleticism, some good pocket presence moving around the pocket, but he's not going to be a guy that's going to create a lot of things with his legs. He's definitely more of a pocket passer than someone who's going to extend plays a ton, get first downs with his legs. He's a little aggressive. He can be a gunslinger at times, and that does lead to some interceptions, especially because while being a gunslinger, he doesn't have the best deep accuracy. And he's had some of the best deep threats in college football over the last 2 years. Last year, Xavier Worthy, Adonai Mitchell. This year, he had Isaiah Bond, Matthew Golden, to name a few, as well as Ryan Wingo, true freshman down there, who's going to be a top wide receiver in the next coming years. So he's had a lot of wide receiver talent to work with, and he hasn't really been able to wow us with it. I mean, this is a team that is coached by Steve Sarkisian, who was the offensive coordinator the year that Devonta Smith won the Heisman. He knows how to set up a passing game. And I mean, Quinn's thrown for 6,500 yards over the last 2 years, so it's not like he's been struggling out there. But I personally expected, more from the Texas team, the Texas offense from Quinn Ewers, especially with the talent surrounding him. He is pretty efficient with the ball, though, a completion rate around 67% the last 2 years. So, he's not making a ton of mistakes. Only 17 interceptions, a little bit more than some of the other guys in this class. But overall, I think Quinn, he's got that weird throwing motion as well, maybe a little Philip Rivers-esque. He's like short arming the ball all the time. He makes it work, but I don't love it, to be quite honest. He's got a good arm. He can make every NFL throw. I'm not worried about like his arm strength or anything. I also don't think it's incredible, though. I think it's just like above average, kind of average for an NFL player, to be quite honest. Doesn't have a ton of touch on his intermediate passes. That's the one thing I noticed. I feel like it's one speed all the time with Quinn. And so with all of that coming in, I have him graded out as a very late day 2 prospect. If you want to pick him up in the 3rd round and try to develop him, I'm okay with that, because this is a guy that came into college with a ton of talent. He's 5-star recruit, number 1 guy in his class, actually, I believe. So there's definitely talent with Quinn. We just haven't really seen it be developed to where we want it to get to. And I do believe that these guys can still develop in the NFL, but the problem is the NFL is not a quarterback development league. They have shown that they are going to move right through you if you can't make it happen. So I think Quinn could sit for a couple of years and maybe something comes out of it. But I'm not expecting Quinn Ewers to be like a first-year starter or anything.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'll be talking about Quinn Ewers in a little bit. Also, most of these guys in this class, pretty big, except for Dylan Gabriel. He's the only quarterback that we have on our prospect sheet here that's under 6 foot. So Quinn Ewers coming in at 6'3", 210. So a little lanky, but, still okay. So my number 5 quarterback is an Ohio State quarterback. Remember, don't scout the helmet, scout the player. It's Will Howard. Wasn't expecting much, and then I watched the film. I like him. Quick release, good footwork, sets his feet well. Thought he had very good pocket mobility and presence. He's got a strong arm. By strong arm, I don't mean I think the strongest arm in the class that I've seen so far is actually Jalen Milroe.
Yep.
Although his deep accuracy is not great, but he also doesn't set his feet well, but I'm not talking about him right now. I would say he has a well above average arm. Excuse me. And throws well on the run. And this is a guy that if you want to talk about a quarterback that will get you bonus points as a runner, to me, that's Will Howard, because at, let's see, I have him pulled up here. At 6'5", 240 is what Nate has him listed on our prospect sheet. That's a load of a quarterback right there. That's like Cam Newton coming at you. Not saying he's Cam Newton, just making that reference size-wise. He's a good runner. He's fast, pretty physical too. Ball placement's pretty good typically, but it does lack on deep throws, which I think is something that I'm seeing throughout this class overall. But these are collegiate quarterbacks, not NFL quarterbacks. These things will improve with time. And one of the things that I really like about him is he will definitely take what the defense gives him. He doesn't always look to put the ball where, in harm's way where it doesn't need to be. He has no problem going through his progressions, checking down to an open back. Most of the time, Travion Henderson, who is an exceptional receiving running back. So I like Will Howard. I like him a little bit here, And if you do watch any film on Will Howard, you will see the improvement going from Kansas State to Ohio State
for sure
as well, working with Chip Kelly.
Yeah, he's a good offensive coordinator. I don't know about a head coach for an NFL team, but Chip Kelly's very good offensive
coordinator. I could guarantee you that Chip Kelly's not a good head coach for an NFL team.
I do like Will Howard as well. I think I currently have him as my quarterback 6. So good call.
Okay. All right, let's go to your number 4.
All right, number 4, I got Jaxson Dart. And I know a lot of people have him as the quarterback 3. Some have been rising him up into that 1 and 2. I've seen that a couple times on Twitter. I do like Jaxson Dart. I actually originally expected him to be my quarterback 3, but somebody else ended up taking that place as I was going through my scouting. I appreciated his ability to look through the field. He obviously was making multiple reads, working his way down, even to his check down, being comfortable just passing it off to his check down when needed. You like to see that from college quarterbacks who oftentimes are just, looking at one guy from the beginning of the play. So he showed his ability to work through his reads and, take what the defense gives him. But on the other hand, he plays in an offense that is almost exclusively screens and deep vertical passing. And he's good on those screens. He's quick and efficient with his release. He's accurate on those short passes. He's pretty good with the deep ball. He does miss, maybe more than I like, but also he's throwing a ton of them. So I don't know if it was just because I saw so many misses, but he was just attempting so many misses. That offense, it scares me for the transition to the NFL because you can't just run deep shots and screens on the outside in the NFL. You have to throw across the middle of the field. And one of the last games I watched from him was against Kentucky, where Ole Miss actually ended up losing to Kentucky. And in that game, there was only one time one time that he threw in between the hashes between 10 and 20 yards in that intermediate middle of the field area, which you know that if you can throw in that area, you can have a long career in the NFL. Only one time did he throw into that area. Ended up being a touchdown with a long yards after the catch play by Trey Harris, like on a little bit of a longer slant. But only one time did he attempt a pass there. It's hard to really get a feel for if he's capable of doing it. Can he do it? And they're just not asking it of him. Is he not able to do it? And that's why they're not doing it. I know that system doesn't really use the middle of the field very much, but I also really want to see it if we're going to project this guy to the next level and to be able to succeed. Because I do think Jaxson Dart, like I said, accurate, quick, and efficient with his release. He's got good mobility to move around the pocket, extend plays. He keeps his eyes down the field. Sometimes holding the ball too long as he's looking for that deep shot. But once again, that's the offense that he was playing in. Throws off of 1 foot pretty often, kind of like a baseball player. I don't know if he has any baseball background in him. But I like a lot of the tools that Jaxson Dart presents because he is athletic enough to extend the play. You don't have to worry about him being a statue in the pocket. He's more athletic than Quinn Ewers, for example. And he's got a good arm. He's completed a lot of passes, a lot of big game experience there in the SEC, playing for Ole Miss after transferring from USC. But like I said, I haven't been able to see those NFL passes that, we want to see on film. It's a lot of down the field on the outside. It's a lot of short screens on the outside. I need to see some more in the middle. I need to dive into the film more, see if I can find some more games where he's doing that. But from what I've watched, it's a lot of avoiding that middle of the field, and that just worries me a little bit. But overall, I do have a day 2 grade on Jaxson Dart. I think he's a guy that could develop. He's got, like I said, all the tools, maybe a little bit of Bo Nix in him with how he kind of plays the game. But we still need some projection before I can say that he's Bo Nix because, hey, Bo Nix, that's my guy. He's looked pretty good this past year.
I will say, if you want to see him using the middle of the field, go back and get some of his USC film. That's definitely a system thing. I do not like the way Ole Miss uses their skill players. I thought they used Trey Harris too close to the line of scrimmage at times when, look, he can do it, but that's not really his skill set. Mm-hmm. Down the field, you know what? Use Trey Harris like A.J. Brown. Down the field, slants across the middle, and Trey Harris is going to be just fine. He's got that big frame. He's got good hands. But I agree. I'm not going to really talk about Jaxson Dart too much because I'll be talking about him in a little bit, but not right now. Right now I'm talking about Quinn Ewers. Nate, you pretty much summed it up for Quinn Ewers. The semi-sidearm release, I guess you could say the Phillip Rivers-esque release. I do see that. I do like his pocket mobility. Now, the reason I do not have him as high as other people's do is that there are times where he could be wildly inaccurate. And you and I have talked about this, I think, last year, where he throws a lot of hospital balls. He just leaves guys hanging out to dry in the middle of the field. And these guys are taking shots in the SEC. I'm going to tell you something right now. Do you think an NFL wide receiver is going to let you leave him hanging in the middle of a field? I do not think so. You get wide receivers cracked in the open field like that, you're going to ride the pine. For you younger children, that is riding the bench. Benches are plastic now. They were wood back in my day. I said it. But there's another guy. I think he goes through his progressions well, and it will also take what the defense gives him. He can fit the ball into tight windows, much to his detriment, because when he does it a couple of times, he thinks he could do it every time.
Yeah.
So, he's a guy that I want to see him sit a year. And I want to see that come back into the NFL, these quarterbacks sitting a year. And I understand that you want some ROI, return on investment, if you will, with these quarterbacks. I get it. But we've seen in the past when quarterbacks sit, it really does help. Phillip Rivers is a prime example. Eli Manning didn't play right away. Yeah. More recently, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, these guys, they didn't play right away. Did Lamar Jackson play at all as a rookie?
Yeah, he did. He came in for the last 3 or 4 games and then lost in the playoffs to the Chargers, I believe.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts didn't start until the Saints game, whichever that was. They weren't playoff eligible that year. But, let these guys sit a little bit, in my opinion. All right, so Nate, where are we at? We're going to your number 3.
My number 3, which I will say I went into the offseason as a whole, not a big fan of this guy. but I turned on the film and I was impressed. And he ended up being my quarterback 3. I think a little bit due to a weak class, but also this guy's got a ton of upside. This is Jalen Milroe, quarterback from Alabama. The best athlete at the quarterback position by far in this draft class. His ability to create plays on the ground, and not just because he's got great speed and acceleration, but he's also very agile. He can make people miss. He has that ability to force missed tackles, have people, leaving their ankles in their shoes and things like that. He's also strong. I have him listed as 6'2", 225, but he's got a lot of strength and toughness to him. I really appreciate his running style. And maybe in the NFL, he wants to take less hits, but he is a pretty thick guy, so I think he can take some of those hits for sure, and you can also lay him out. But this is a guy that had 20 rushing touchdowns this year. Over the last 2 years, he had 32 rushing touchdowns. And maybe, we'd like to see a bit more of his arm. 16 touchdowns, 11 interceptions this year. Last year, 23 and 6. So there is definitely some improvement with his accuracy, with his consistency, with his throwing motion. And I'll get into that in just a second. But we know that in today's modern NFL, a quarterback who can make things happen on the ground with their legs is almost as valuable as someone who can throw the ball and make things happen with their arm. And I think Milroe has such an ability with his legs, and the fact that I think overall his accuracy concerns and arm concerns are possibly a little overrated. I do think they're certainly there, but you can tell this guy has been developing, and the fact that he has improved over his time at Alabama. Now, he did have Kalen DeBoer this year as his head coach, who did incredible things with Michael Penix over at Washington last year. So he did have kind of like a quarterback guru as his coach this year. And that I think that really helped, even though the numbers didn't really back it up. Like I said, you're not going to look at 16 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. I think that this guy is going to be a great quarterback at the next level. But he's not, he's not that one look and run quarterback. He can do that at times. I don't think he's, great at going through all of his reads. But also I think the Alabama offense was kind of set up that way. Where, if he didn't have it in the first couple of plays, they were moving on. That offensive line didn't start out the year as strong as they were hoping it to be. But he does stand up very well in the pocket. He does know how to run around and extend plays, get down the field when he needs to. I do worry about his arm work a little bit. I noticed a lot of his accuracy issues were because he was not giving himself the full follow through. He wasn't rotating his hips. And, that not just limits your ability to get the ball down the field, which he's got plenty of a strong arm. Mike, you said it earlier. He's probably got the strongest arm in the class this year. But it really limits the velocity when he's making these shorter intermediate throws. And with how strong his arm is, he needs to be getting that in there super quick. And sometimes with him falling off his back foot or not going through the follow through, he's kind of airmailing those like 10-yard passes, which are just kind of limiting the wide receiver and what they can do after the play. So I think that this is a guy that has developed, can continue to develop. Another player that I don't think should be a first-year starter. I think Jalen Milroe needs to sit for a little bit. But I think Jalen Milroe, after like 1 year of sitting, could be an NFL starter. I'm not like guaranteeing that, because I do think that he needs to develop more than he currently the talent level of accuracy and being a quarterback at the NFL level. He can't do that at the moment. But I think he's got enough, and he's shown enough that he can after a year or two of sitting. And even if he gets to just an average level of being able to throw the ball and being accurate and controlling that offense with the ability that he provides with his legs, he could be a real game changer. And I put him as my quarterback 3. I put him over Jaxson Dart. It's a little bit of a projection, but his upside is higher than anyone else below him in this quarterback class.
Maybe. I'll say that. And
someone below him. Not I got 2 guys above him. I think they guys have higher. Well, I mean, I think Milroe still has intense upside, but
he could.
My quarterback 3.
I didn't have Jalen Milroe on my list. Spoiler. So I disagreed with you on some things. I thought he was a one read and run quarterback. Now, he did progress between 23 and 24 those seasons.
23, absolutely a one read and run guy.
I have inaccurate with questionable ball placement. And for how mobile he is, I think his pocket presence needs work because he takes a lot of sacks. And he does not have very good ball security either. 11 fumbles last year and 13 the year before. He has 29 career fumbles. Yeah. And, that's just as a runner. That's not good. But He does have a quick release with a very strong arm. And I had it here. Good. He's very good when the ball comes out quick. So you need an offense where he gets rid of the ball as quick as possible, because I don't think he processes exceptionally well. If he has to think too much in the pocket, things can happen that aren't necessarily good. But, my concern is the ball security, taking a lot of sacks, which just baffles me for how mobile he is. That's it. And you'd said about the ball velocity. I think sometimes he puts too much on passes where they don't need to be. They're just bouncing off his receiver hands. It's like, come on, man,
doesn't have a lot of touch. That's true.
Slow that down a little bit there. The guy's 6 yards away from you.
If you want me to give another negative, Mike, I think he also stares down his wide receiver off the beginning of the play pretty often.
Yeah, I noticed that as well. But a lot of this stuff can be coached out of him. I'll say that. Get in there with a good quarterback coach. One thing I will notice when I watched film of his from this past year, there's a young wide receiver there. I think his last name is Williams.
Ryan Williams, man.
Holy
so good.
Crap. I cannot wait until he's draft eligible to watch film on this dude.
Dude, 2027 draft class is going to be just incredible at the wide receiver position.
I mean, this kid, like when he gets the ball in his hands, there was a time there, I think it was Georgia I saw him playing against. He should have been tackled twice. And he just spun and wove away, and I was thoroughly impressed. So
yeah. That catch against Georgia where he spins, runs for the touchdown, possibly the play of the whole college season. Incredible.
Yeah, it was amazing.
This episode is brought to you by Coffee Mate. After watching this season of the HBO's original series, The White Lotus, this is the tropical getaway I needed. One more pina colada, please.
Hey, you're not on mute.
Oh, I thought I was in paradise. Turns out, it was my Coffee Mate. Coffee Mate Pina Colada and Thai-iced coffee-flavored creamers. Inspired by the newest season of HBO's original series, The White Lotus. For the love of coffee. Try now.
Lowe's knows that free is just better. That's why MyLowe's Rewards is free to join. As a member, you earn points towards MyLowe's money on eligible purchases, get exclusive free gifts, and earn free shipping at Silver Key status, all on top of weekly member-only deals. Don't wait. Join MyLowe's Rewards for free today and start saving more. Lowe's, we help, you save. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
Pepsid Complete knows that food is one of the best parts of game day. That is, until heartburn strikes. Thankfully, just one chewable tablet of Pepsid Complete provides dual-action heartburn relief with an antacid that starts working instantly and an acid reducer that lasts all day. So you can stay focused on that second helping of chili without worrying about heartburn. All day based on 8-hour symptom relief studies during the day. Use product only as directed.
Go further with the American Express Business Gold Card. Earn 3 times membership rewards points on flights and prepaid hotels when you book through AmexTravel.com. Whether your destination is a business conference or a client meeting, your purchases will help you earn more points for future trips. Experience more on your travels with Amex Business Gold. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-gold. Amex Business Gold Card. Built for business by American Express.
All right, Nate, it's time for my number 3 quarterback. You hate him. I love him. You don't hate him. It's Jaxson Dart. Look, Jaxson Dart has some flaws, but like you pointed out before, the middle of the field, go back and watch his USC film. At USC, he was definitely using the center of the field. So I do think it's Ole Miss's system. And, you might be saying to yourself in listener or viewer land, why don't they change it? Well, it's not the college's job to change their system. Their system is what works for them. Their job is to win football games. They don't care about what you think about their system, but they do score a lot of points. I thought his pocket presence was good. Ball placement was typically good. I thought he threw a lot of very good back shoulder passes with nice touch in the back of the end zone. He's not a running quarterback per se, but he's mobile enough, and there were some design quarterback draws for him. Now, I will say this, between him and Will Howard runs some quarterback powers, and he runs them pretty dang well, too.
He's a strong guy, that's for sure.
I mean, he's so big. It's just crazy. You can usually lead his receiver as well. Jaxson Dart. Sometimes it's behind him. These things happen. And there are times where I think he tries to extend the play too long, just needs to throw a ball away or even take a sack. Some questionable decision-making. But I've seen from what I've watched, he can run a pro or an RPO style offense or an RPR, which is run pass run, however you want to quantify it. So yeah, one other thing too, his ball velocity is down a little bit, just the way he throws it, some line drives. I see some batted balls. So I think that could be coached out of him. One other thing that I thought was an advantage, I thought he throws very well on the run. So, a lot of coaches in the NFL, they can design some plays around that. There's some things I don't like about him, but these are things that I think can be coached out of him. And I like Jaxson Dart. I actually liked him a little bit more than I expected to be honest with you. So Jaxson Dart out of Ole Miss. How big is Jaxson Dart? Let's get him up here.
6'2", 225, I think.
6'2", 220. Yeah. He's a decent sized boy too. I can't believe USC didn't want him for whatever reason.
Well, they got Caleb, right?
Yeah. Whatever. No, I mean, I get it, but I like Jaxson Dart. My number 3 quarterback for right now. And things will change. And you know what? If you want to be an analyst, a content creator, whatever, or you just don't get take lock. Things change, new things come out. There's no shame in changing how you view players or where you rank them. And these will most likely all change after the draft anyway. And you have landing spots and clear paths to playing time. And then guess what? They'll change every year after that too. Also, another good example of quarterbacks that didn't play right away. Patrick Mahomes.
Yep.
Started one game his first year. It was the last game of the season. The Chiefs already had the playoffs and their spot locked up. So
Jordan Love, Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, true. Jordan Love. I forgot about Jordan Love. That was another good one too. I think Jordan Love has a bounce back year this year, even though his year wasn't bad this last year.
I know what you mean, though.
The year before was so good. Just like CJ Stroud had a down year.
Yeah.
It was still a good year. People are. Hey, let's go to your number 2.
All right. The journeyman. He was at Incarnate Word. He was at Washington State and finished his college career at Miami after dipping his toes in the NFL draft last year, then going back to college. Cam Ward made himself a lot of money, decided to go back to college instead of being a day 2, possibly early day 3 pick last year. Went back to college to Miami, had an incredible year, and now looks like he'll be a top 5 pick, if not possibly the first overall pick. We'll see how it all plays out at the end of April. But one thing, just starting off with this guy, I love that he thrived in so many different situations throughout his career. The fact that he went to Miami in his first year there, ended up throwing for over 4,000 yards, 39 touchdowns, being one of the best quarterbacks they've had in quite a long time. That's great. That means that he should be able to go to the NFL, pick up a playbook, get integrated into an offense quickly. He's not someone that needs to stay somewhere 3 or 4 years to really fully understand the offense. This guy is ready to go. He's pro ready, should be able to translate to the NFL pretty quickly. Thought he showed good anticipation for seeing where his wide receiver is going to be, especially on scramble drills, because this guy has incredible escapability within the pocket. And Cam Ward is athletic. He can run around. He's got good agility, but he doesn't use it in the way that we see a lot of our athletic quarterbacks use it, where they're going and getting first downs and things like that. Cam Ward's doing a lot of his movement behind the line of scrimmage, extending the play, trying to find that wide receiver, keeping his eyes downfield. I really appreciated that. I think he probably could have run more often, to be quite honest. Sometimes I think he's trying to force a big play to happen, but he does extend the play, have a slippery thing about him where he's just hard to tackle around the pocket. And he finds a way to make things happen in the plus 5 seconds. Once you get a play that's over 5 seconds, that is a pretty long play in the NFL. It's a long play in college as well. And he makes magic happen in those kind of plays. So that was really exciting to watch. Also a little concerning at times because sometimes he's trying so hard, he forces a play. For example, in one of the games I watched against Duke, he played great, but he's running around. It's like a 10-second play, ends up thrown back across his body. It's intercepted, like at the line of scrimmage. NFL coaches aren't going to like to see that. Now, he has the ability to, have like a 60-yard touchdown on the same kind of play. So you got, you give and you take. We have those playmaking quarterbacks these days, and you understand that you're going to lose some, but you're going to win a lot. And he can do that. That nonchalance that he has in the pocket, it is an asset because he keeps a cool head under pressure at all times. So I know NFL teams are going to be really excited about that. As far as his arm work, this is a guy that throws out a ton of different motions. Over 3/4 sidearm. He can do it all. I do think that there are some accuracy issues when he's going with the sidearm. I think he gets a little lazy with it, especially on the easier, simpler throws. Some of those short screens, he's just kind of going at it with the sidearm motion, and it's a little off. And I think, just kind of making sure that he's focused on those easier throws so that he is doing his full follow through, doing his the correct arm work. I think that'll be important at the next level. But outside of those little nitpick things, this guy has a great arm. He's pretty accurate. He knows how to get the ball down the field. He's got good touch on the ball in the intermediate area as well. And like I said, that playmaking ability, it's hard to really make it tangible because, you either have it or you don't have it most of the time. And he definitely has it. And that's really what gives him that edge that we saw this year and why he was able to come back and win so many games, because Miami's defense was terrible. Miami, easily could have been a 1 or 2 loss team. And actually, I don't know how many losses they ended up with, 2 or 3, I think maybe. But they could have been a national championship contender if their defense was any better than they were. Cam Ward was incredible this year because he was constantly playing catch up, because every time he scored a touchdown, the defense would allow a touchdown. So Cam Ward, I love his film. Mike, I know you're going to talk about him quite a bit, so I won't go on any longer, but I did really like Cam Ward. Definitely have a first round grade on him. I'm excited to see what he brings to the next level.
Yeah, I like Cam Ward, and I'll talk about him in a little bit, but for now, let's get to my number 2 quarterback in this class, and that's Shedeur Sanders. One thing I'll say about Shedeur Sanders to kick it off is when he is on, he is absolutely electric. The downfall for him this year, and it's not so much his fault, Colorado is not a good team at running the football. They just weren't.
No.
If they would have been better at that, that takes pressure off your quarterback. It's one of those things. A strong running game helps everybody, helps set up the offensive line for success. You can run play action better, puts less stress on the quarterback to do whatever they need to do to win. But there are some things, I think his pocket awareness for me is what separates him between my number 2 and number 1. Obviously, Cam Ward is my number 1. Cool, calm, collect in the pocket. Shedeur Sanders, not as much, and he struggles under pressure. But footwork's good, sets his feet well. I like how fast his release is, and I like his throwing motion as well. He does hold on to the ball too long at times, and Nate, you and I have talked about this, not on the pod necessarily, but there were times where you have Travis Hunter just flying down the sidelines. Just let that ball rip. Let one of the fastest guys in college football get under it. Don't wait for him to get open because, a lot of these corners, you're playing off coverage. They got a couple steps on Travis. They just have to catch up a little bit. And corners are fast too. Just let it rip sometimes. Above average arm strength, but I do think some of his downfield passes lack just that luster of, just a big, heavy bomb down there. Cam Ward, I do feel, has a stronger arm than Shedeur Sanders, and takes a lot of sacks, needs to throw a ball away quicker. I've talked about that too. I think he goes through his progressions very well. Obviously, your dad is Deion Sanders. He's going to coach up very good there, and typically has very good ball placement. And if memory serves me correctly, I got Shedeur Sanders' PFF stats up here. Hate PFF all you want, but they're really good for stats. 73.4% completion percentage this year, which, if memory serves me correctly, is an NCAA record for a season.
And a career percentage of just below 70%. So really impressive throughout his collegiate career.
Very, very impressive. Over 4,000 yards, 37 touchdowns, only 10 picks this last year. So, I do like Shedeur Sanders. Interesting to see where he'll go next year. I know Deion said,
ooh, man, getting gritty.
Sorry, I'm falling apart. I'm pressing all the wrong buttons. I apologize, everybody. I'm falling apart, man. I know Deion said, hey, I don't want him playing anywhere it's cold, but it's not your call, man. Yeah. He's going to be probably a first-round pick. Just, it's going to be fun. Yeah. It's going to be fun. Also, I am all for every NFL stadium having a dome as I get older. Cover me up.
No fun. We need football weather. Come on.
Yeah, I guess.
Like all the Ravens games I go to, I end up going into like November and December, and it's always freezing.
No, nothing past like middle of November for me. I've done enough. That's why I like going to hockey games. Got a hoodie on, you're good. But that was my number 2. It sounds like my number 2 is your number 1.
My number 2 is your number 1. How about that?
Look at that.
Look at that. Well, I will talk about Shedeur Sanders a little bit, who is my quarterback 1. I think a lot of what you said is quite accurate. He's comfortable not throwing the pass and checking down, but he's also probably too comfortable taking the sack. And a little bit of that is on him. A little bit of that is that Colorado has had a terrible offensive line for the past 2 years, to be honest.
I forgot to mention that too.
Like a pretty bad offensive line. I think it was slightly better this year, but it was like one of the worst in football last year. So he needs to get better at throwing the ball away. Because there's a lot of those times that he took the sack where, there wasn't anyone open, and I'm glad he didn't force, a pass that he shouldn't make, but he needs to learn to throw the ball away. Throw it out of bounds. Don't take the sack. He's taking the negative yardage when he just needs to throw the ball away to live and fight another day. He also kind of has this nonchalance that we see with Cam Ward. We see with Shedeur Sanders. It's an asset where, he's looking like he's playing casually and he keeps that cool head, but also, sometimes it is a little bit too casual, and that leads to those sacks and things like that. So, you really got to find that balance of, okay, you have the coolness under pressure, but you still have that time ticking in your head and that understanding that I can't take negative plays. I can't, do something that hurts my team. So something with him with there. I thought that his arm was okay. Maybe, above average for a college quarterback, probably average for an NFL quarterback. He's going to be able to make all the NFL throws he needs to make. But his arm strength is, I wouldn't say like a huge asset for him, not like a huge plus. He does have good arm angles, the ability to throw to different motions. We even saw some shovels and some underarms. He's a good playmaker. This is a guy that's got good athleticism. He's another guy that's, despite the good athleticism, is not going to be running for a ton of first downs with his legs, not going to be creating a lot of big plays with his legs, but he's got good escapability. Another guy that can, extend the play outside of the pocket. I do like that. I think that Shedeur Sanders is one of the better rhythm passers. A lot of the guys that we've talked about tonight haven't really been rhythm passers. Shedeur Sanders is definitely more in that zone, and that's, you can see that in his completion percentage. He's got good touch on the ball in both the short and the intermediate areas. He'll throw to zones rather than players, which, a lot of times we see guys throw to players, and sometimes they only throw to players when they're open. But Shedeur understands the route concepts that he's working with, and he's able to throw to open windows and throw to open zones that players are about to be in. I do like that. Another guy, I saw this with every single quarterback that we looked at for this episode, is all these guys throw off their back foot way too much. They're way too comfortable limiting their follow through. Like they're getting like to here where like your arms letting go of the ball and then they're stopping and they're falling backwards. So they're not always necessarily throwing off their back foot, but they're not doing the full follow through. And I don't get it. I get it when someone's in your face, but if you're just standing there trying to make a nice pass 20 yards down the field, why are you not following through? This leads to accuracy issues. I saw it with Shedeur. I saw it with Cam Ward. Saw it with every single person we talked about tonight. So I bring it up because it's in my notes here for Shedeur, but I saw it with every single player that we've looked at tonight. I do think Shedeur is a very tough player. One of the tougher quarterbacks that I watched. He goes through a lot of adversity on the field. He's got a target on his back from opposing players because of his name, because of his attitude, a little bit of both. But he definitely has a target on his back. I know that there was a situation. I remember you sent me the video. I think it was like on Instagram, and like him pushing another player or something like that. I think he actually ended up pushing the ref. But this was during a game where the other team was extremely dirty to him, going after his knees, hitting him after the play, and he needs to not take it to the next level. But he's definitely a very tough player. Took a lot of hits that he didn't need to take, whether because he was taking the sack or because they were hitting him late. But I really like Shedeur Sanders, and I think in this quarterback class where I honestly don't have any of these guys rated as a top 15 pick, I have Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders as first-round picks, but I have them as like late first-round picks. But because of the value that we place on the quarterback position, they're going to be top 10 picks, both of them most likely. And I get that, and I'm fine with that. But I have Shedeur Sanders as quarterback 1. You have Cam Ward as quarterback 1. In last year's quarterback class, these guys are fighting for quarterback 5, maybe quarterback 4.
Yeah,
while I do like these guys, both Cam and Shedeur, as NFL starters at the next level, I'm not nearly as excited about them as many of the quarterbacks that we had last year. And so we can be excited about these guys. We definitely should be. But I think it's also important to keep in the scope of outside of this draft class. These guys are the quarterback 1 and quarterback 2 of this draft class. That's great. We love that. But when you step back and you actually look at the big picture, it is true that this quarterback class is not as strong at the top as some of the quarterback classes we've seen recently. I do think this quarterback class is better than the Kenny Pickett quarterback class.
Oh.
That's for sure.
Oh.
But it's not last year's quarterback class, and please don't have those expectations.
Yeah, I will say this. I did see an interesting Kenny Pickett stat. He has taken more snaps in the Super Bowl than Dak Prescott, but mine quarterback number 1 is Cam Ward. Nate, you pretty much covered it all. I just want to reiterate the fact that I love his pocket presence. He just sits back there, sometimes to his detriment, where it's like, yeah, I got this, and then boom, takes a big shot, maybe a fumble, something like that. But for the most part, and you want to see some really good Cam Ward tape, watch the full game, because then you'll see one of my favorite stash running backs, Bashal Tootin.
Yeah.
It's Virginia Tech, Miami. I watched that game the night it was played. Virginia Tech should have won that game. Cam Ward, spoiler, leads the charge, comes back to win it. Fantastic performance by Cam Ward. Situational awareness is good. I think he has good velocity on his throws when needed. A good deep ball, lacks the accuracy there, which seems to be another common thing for this class. Deep ball accuracy isn't great. Throwing off your back foot. I'm like, what are these guys doing here? He also throws well on the run. I think he's more mobile than he lets on. Doesn't really look to run a lot, but hey, Justin Fields didn't run a lot at Ohio State either. He didn't have to. So another great guy to watch from Miami, in case you haven't heard the name, Xavier Restrepo. I think he'll be a slot-only guy at the next level. And is Cam McCormick going to the draft, Nate?
I don't think so.
He's been in college so long, he's almost out of military eligibility age.
He might have started college the same time I started college, actually.
And he started in like 2016 or something like that.
That's after me.
9 years he's been in there. I don't. When did you start college, Nate?
2013.
I didn't go to college, but I get to help pay for my wife's college, so that's cool. But yeah, I like Cam Ward. This is going to be a very interesting quarterback class. Nate, before we log off here, you have one honorable mention here, and then I'm going to poo-poo on this guy a little bit. But I have good reason to. I have good reason to. Tell us about it.
All right. I don't have too much to say, to be honest, but I just wanted to put out there another quarterback to keep an eye on. It's a stash, deep stash. Is Kyle McCord, who played, Illinois, correct? This past year after transferring from Ohio State. He was Marvin Harrison Jr.'s high school quarterback. Fun fact. Kyle McCord had a really good year. Actually, don't have his stats pulled up. I should have, because
he was his college quarterback too. I'll pull up Kyle McCord's stats for you.
Yep, high school and college quarterback for a little bit there. Kyle McCord had a pretty good year together. And when Mike pulls up his stats and gives you the touchdown to interception ratio, one thing to remember is that he had like 5 interceptions in one game. So if you take out that game, he actually had a really, really good touchdown interception ratio.
It was against Pitt, and I will say this, it was not all bad throws. A lot of them were batted balls, and a lot of them were very close to their own end zone. So we're talking like 10 to 12 yards, batted ball, picked off, and then it was a touchdown.
It was a terrible game.
34-12 touchdown to interception ratio. And the Pitt game, why am I not seeing it on here? I don't know, but I remember that game because he sucked. That wasn't.
Yeah, I remember you talking to me about it. You loved it. You fed off the chaos.
Yeah, he had a 0-5 touchdown to interception ratio that game.
Yeah, it's a bad game. But outside of that, played a really good season this year. Kind of, bounced back after kind of getting kicked to the curb by Ohio State. I believe he led the ACC in a lot of those categories for the quarterback position. So a guy that I think, could be a career backup at the next level. I'm not like excited for him to be an NFL starter or anything, but I think he's got enough talent where he can have a decent career in the NFL. So just keep an eye on him, depending on the landing spot, depending on if, goes to like a quarterback guru, we'll have to keep an eye on him. But that's just someone I did want to mention.
He did also lead the NCAA in passing yards this year with 4,779. But besides that, I think he's slow and immobile, slightly above average arm strength with very questionable decision-making.
He is certainly at the next level, at best, a game manager. He's not going to be a playmaker. He's not going to be, a huge game changer. He's pretty statuesque in the pocket, but, like I said, I think he could be a good spot starter game manager at the next level.
His ceiling is Aiden O'Connell in the NFL. Hey, look, man, Aiden O'Connell helped people win some games. One guy I want to talk about because I want to tell you to stay away from that's Riley Leonard. You've heard Nate talk about athlete playing running back. This is athlete playing quarterback. He's a much better runner than he is a passer. And you saw that if you watched any of Notre Dame last year. They really thrived off of having Riley Leonard run the ball. And I think a lot of that Jeremiah Love was banged up for a lot of the season, battling this and that, as running backs tend to do. It's a very physical position. But yeah, so in case Riley Leonard gets overdrafted, I'm just staying away from him, I think.
I think that's fine.
Yeah. But there's nobody else.
He's a gamer. I'd call him a gamer. Like, if you want to, I think he just fit Notre Dame really, really well this year. And that shows, they made it to the national championship. But yeah, I don't think that role will carry on or translate to the NFL.
Yeah. I don't think so either. He'll be in a camp, I'm sure. He'll probably make a practice squad.
He'd be a great scout quarterback.
He really would. He'd be a great UFL quarterback.
Mike.
Yes.
Mike. Oh my gosh. I have to look it up. You have to kill some time for a second because I saw who the UFL quarterbacks are this year, and I can't remember right now. But DC got somebody who I was just really excited to tell you about, and I have to go find it. So,
isn't their quarterback again Jordan? I don't know how to say the guy's last name.
You got to give me a second. You got to let me go find it. Tiamu. I know he's still on the roster, but there's somebody new that they got.
They had Derek King for a little bit too. Last time we saw him.
Yeah, he was used in the goal line situations, which I get he's a great runner, but he's also like 5'9" or 5'10" or something like that. I thought that was interesting.
He's a good runner, though. I'll say that. Oh, they got Devin Asiasi, the tight end, if you guys remember him.
Asiasi. That was going to be the next Aaron Hernandez and Rob Gronkowski, him and Asiasi and Keene. Yeah. Here it is. DC defenders now have Spencer Sanders.
Oh,
That's
man.
their quarterback from Oklahoma State.
Yeah, Spencer Sanders, that guy right there. They still have Abram Smith down there as well. Who, I'll tell you what, pretty good UFL running back.
Lynn Bowden, running back. Got some names on here, man, that we knew, but haven't worked out so well.
Hey, you see these guys and I'm like, man, I spent a lot of time scouting that guy. Good times. So that's going to wrap it up for us. Don't forget, if you want to hear some deeper dive players, patreon.com/Dynasty Rewind. You can try it out for a week for free. Grab some Dynasty Rewind merch. The link is down below. Nate's rocking a shirt right now. I'm not. I'm still cold. I got a hoodie on. My Dynasty Rewind hoodie.
I have a flannel one.
Gosh, yeah. And keep your eyes peeled. We got a lot of fun stuff. It's too early to announce right now. But until next time, for Nate, I'm Mike. As always, thank you for listening.